So, hi, Emily. Welcome back.
Oh, thanks, Adam. Yeah, I'm so pleased to be invited back.
Yeah, and I forgot how to pronounce your last name. I have to admit,
Jiang,
Jiang.
Emily Jiang.
Jiang. Okay, but
Yeah,
this is easy. But this is not pronounced correctly. Is this Jiang? Just as simple, Jiang?
Jiang. Yeah, it's Jiang. Just one syllable.
Okay,
In
perfect.
Chinese, most of all the characters just one syllable.
Okay, then now I'm a Chinese speaker. Jiang.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Without an accent, right? So I'm speaking without so I'm just clean Chinese language, right?
Yeah, it's a Beijing accent.
Beijing accent, very good. I was at Java 1. Yeah, Chinese Java 1. I was in Beijing.
Oh, the QCon, you mean?
No,
Chinese.
it was Java 1. It was 2010 or something like this. And this was one of the Chinese Java 1s. So there was a period of time where Java 1 was global.
Oh, I
And
see.
yeah, this was like 1 or 2 years. And I was in Beijing, actually.
Oh, that's yeah, it's quite nice. It's kind of the conferences in Beijing is quite different from the other
Yeah. And the cool
conferences.
story was the someone from Oracle told me I don't should not require questions because Chinese won't ask any questions, and I still did it. And what happened was I got so many questions that I couldn't do my content. So I got lots of questions. So this was actually the best experience ever. And yeah, well, really nice conference, as I remember. But it was very cold, what I also remember. It was, yeah. But
Which month is it in the winter, perhaps?
yeah, November or something. But the wind was really cold. This is what I remember. Extremely cold.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you wrote a book about microprofile.
Yes, I have this book.
Yeah, I also have it. I have it somewhere here, but I couldn't find that. But I wanted to read the entire book, but because of time is end of year, I didn't manage that. But what I did, I look at the source code entirely. So this is what I did. So I said, okay, at least I will watch at the source code, the ideas, and nice book. So I like it. But I immediately ordered the book, and then it was cancelled, and then it came. So it was like strange story with the book. So, but I have it.
Oh, that's strange.
Yeah, strange. Yeah, I ordered. It was like a no pre-order or something,
Oh, yeah, the pre-order.
and then the pre-order was cancelled, and then I got it anyway. So this was like interesting.
Oh, that's
So how long did it took to write such a book?
it's very interesting. Actually, it's same time last year, I was contacted by a packet and asked me to write a book. And at that time, I was busy with MicroProfile 4.0 release. I said, okay, I will finish the release and then I think about it. And then it's last year when we released MicroProfile 4.0, literally just before Christmas. It's really, we just like trying to release it.
Okay.
And then we all work together and trying to get it out just literally before Christmas. And then it's kind of oh, I need a break. And then it's kind of I said, oh, I need to get out of the house and visit friends. I had a Christmas was a get together arranged. And then I saw I said, okay, the book can be delayed. I will think about that after the holiday time. But suddenly it's like all the kind of lockdown and etc. All the events, Christmas events were cancelled. So I didn't have much things to do. And then it's kind of also is very interesting because I had my house renovated, so I stayed in the caravan in the front garden. So literally very small mobile house for the family of four. So we didn't have much things in the mobile house and haven't got much entertainment at all. So okay, maybe I spend time to read a book. It's basically, I think, the package editor, Shwata, And I just, we worked together and trying to get the process up running. And then I spent literally probably that 2 weeks to just get all the layout, all the chapters, design, then what need to be done in which chapter and etc. Eventually get all the chapters, outlines, grid packet. And then I put in some of my kind of colleagues and together to write the book with me. I think it's from the beginning to the finish. So we literally finished in July, August time. I think it took about 8 months to finish this.
This is when I ordered this book in summer, as I remember.
Yes, you ordered this book in summer. Yeah. Yeah.
And you said you spent a lot of time of writing, planning the book. But for me, such a book would be actually easy, from the flow, because I would start, probably with JAX-RS and MicroProfile config, and then proceed from that, right? So if you think about applications, so it is like a natural progress, like. I mean, JAX-RS CDI, what I forgot, of course, JAX-RS CDI, then MicroProfile config would be the next one, right? Then maybe what we can do then. Then the natural next chapter would be JAX-RS, MicroProfile client, because it comes with injection. Then if you have this, we could add fault tolerance, because you need to know timeout and retry, and then a little bit metrics. And then OpenAPI, I forgot. So JAX-RS OpenAPI would be the natural one, right? So I think so. Like if you think about the microprofile, how you build an app, this is and what I look at the chapters, I actually don't. I will have to find the book, because if you look at the chapters, this is like a logical progression what you did. So it is like this, right?
Yes. So basically, it's I design. Because I want to say the cloud native, basically I want to define the term cloud native. And then is kind of, okay, let's create developing applications. Obviously you use JAX-RS, CDI, JSON-P, JSON-B, and then you use the REST client to wire this application together. And then you enhance the application using config for tolerance and MicroProfile JWT, and documented them using OpenAPI. And then the observation, health and metrics and OpenTracing. And then the data operation. So it's a kind of very natural flow. Yeah.
Yeah, very good. So JSON-B on JSON-P, what I forgot, because this will be the parameters for a JAX-RS app. So this is, interesting.
Yes. Yeah.
And you spend all your time with MicroProfile still?
I spent most of the time with MicroProfile. This year, I think is in my spare time. I spend a lot of time from December last year, after Christmas, from January and to August, most evenings, a weekend, and trying to write a book. And then spend most of the time trying to do the MicroProfile 5.0 release. And then I don't know, have you heard the news on the Jakarta One Live? I announced MicroProfile 5 release. I even did a demo on the OpenTelemetry. So it's basically MicroProfile 5 together with the Jakarta EE 9.1. That worked out really well. I used the Eclipse transformer to transform the one of the very simple application. So I use the MicroProfile starter, create a MicroProfile 4.0 the application, sample application. I use the Eclipse transformer to transform it to be the Jakarta namespace, and got it running with OpenTelemetry, MicroProfile 5.0 and Jakarta 9.1. Everything worked. Really,
which is boring. I mean, usually something should break. This is more exciting,
Yeah, it's exactly.
So we can summarize, this podcast. MicroProfile is boring technology, right? It always works.
Yeah, this is somebody told me saying, "Oh, So MicroProfile 5.0 just same as 4.0 with the Jakarta namespace. I said that from the surface it's no new functionality. However, the other laid a very stable foundation. And it's undergoing a lot of the process and there's a lot of hard work and trying to make sure the TCK can be executed, all the API can be loaded, etc. It's the same as the other release. However, this is kind of from now on, and we can evolve MicroProfile freely, and then we will use the Jakarta namespace for the community.
So what I understood is the biggest feature is the Jakarta namespace, right?
Yes, the major thing.
So all the MicroProfile APIs come with Jakarta namespace.
All the MicroProfile APIs changed their dependencies from JavaX to Jakarta. There's no additional functionalities at all. In the MicroProfile stacks.
Yeah, but MicroProfile Metric, for instance, there was no dependency on Jakarta EE. So you also renamed the package names, or they are still org MicroProfile or Eclipse or whatever.
So it's because there's even though some spec that hasn't got dependencies on the Jakarta, sometimes their TCK have dependencies under the Jakarta namespace.
Okay.
And also there's another thing is that also there's the dependencies on other MicroProfile specs. So because of this is kind of we all did the kind of the overall migration, overall release.
Yeah, sure. But what interests me, whether you changed the namespace from MicroProfile to Jakarta EE? No.
Didn't change them. Didn't change the package name for MicroProfile APIs. Only change the dependency, like a JavaX dependency to Jakarta dependency.
Yeah, exactly. So the MicroProfile dependencies remain the same, but behind the scenes there is no more dependency on Java EE. It's just Jakarta EE. So there's alignment with the Jakarta EE spec.
Correct.
Yeah, this is what because I was like this, I didn't knew about that. So I look it up, but this is how I also understood that now we are completely based on Jakarta EE namespace. But if there is a spec like OpenTracing or OpenAPI, which is not available in Jakarta EE, so it didn't change anything in the API. Behind the scenes you did with TCK, but API remained the same, right?
Correct. So the MicroProfile APIs, all the package is still the same.
Very good.
Yeah.
And what are now the features? Are there any additional features, in comparison to 4 beside the namespace?
For the 5.0, no, there's no feature changes.
Not even a little Java comment or something.
There's some Java doc fix some bugs or something like that, or there's some stack as a TCK changes. But there's no new functional changes. But yeah, obviously Java doc sometimes if they refer JavaX will be changed to Jakarta. And also there's some Java doc got obviously wrong stuff.
Yeah. So small fixes, but not major.
Yeah. Okay. Small fixes, but no new functional change. Yeah.
What I hear a lot from the community, the MicroProfile users really like MicroProfile Metrics. I also like metrics a lot. But, there is a lot of alignment with Micrometer and, with the OpenTelemetry. So what's the status with it? So will MicroProfile Metrics remain like it is, or will you? Because what I like, and other developers also like, is the namespaces. We have dedicated application namespace with just with my stuff without implementing anything. It's just there. So there is the base namespace and vendor namespace, which I care a little bit less. But what I like, that my stuff is clearly separated from the container stuff or runtime stuff. And but what happens there? What's the status?
So there's two things. The first thing is OpenTelemetry,
Yeah.
as you mentioned. So it's impact two specs. One spec is OpenTracing. Obviously, OpenTracing, that's kind of done deal because it's kind of merged with OpenSensors to be OpenTelemetry. So that's quite clear. So for the OpenTracing at the moment, we are creating an open MicroProfile OpenTelemetry directly deprecate MicroProfile OpenTracing, supersede MicroProfile OpenTracing. So we are going to very soon we are going to create the MicroProfile OpenTelemetry spec. So it's adopt the tracing portion in the OpenTelemetry project.
Because but the API of OpenTracing is vast, right? This is one annotation called traced, one annotation called traced, and and how it's called where you inject? There's another interface, right? There's
the tracer, so you can inject the tracer. So it's in the OpenTelemetry you have a span or you can have a tracer. But actually, at the moment we are discussing is the span is kind of more relevant. Maybe we would inject a span. So at the moment we are working together and trying to create. Actually, we put our thought in the sandbox, and then the next step is basically we formalize it, do a project creation plan for the OpenTelemetry. So for the tracing aspect. So this is the kind of MicroProfile OpenTelemetry tracing portion. The other portion, as I mentioned, is
tracing. Back to tracing, can you give your feedback? What we have over and over again in projects that developers are really interested in getting the span ID or the trace ID or whatever. The unique ID is important for us because if we get the ID from outside from other service, maybe we would like to log something, and so we need the ID. So this would be nice. And the span ID or trace ID.
The span ID.
Yeah. So whatever ID we get. So this is from OpenTracing there was about spans back then. What I remember, all the tools are like Jaeger. This was about spans, and we need just an uniquely identifier which identifies the transaction across microservices, and this should be injectable. I think you can now via tracer get the ID. You can.
I know there's OpenTelemetry, there's a span. I think there's maybe it's kind of easily to get the ID.
Yeah, but this is I get it. If we talk about tracing, I always get the question. And the next one is also useful is what we as developers would like to do is to add additional stuff easily, so that it got transported across the layers within a microservice, and of course between microservices would be also nice. So just I think it's called baggage, right, or bag or something in.
There's a baggage.
Baggage, exactly. Yeah. But this is already there. And the next one, but I think is already done, that you can add metrics to the span, right? So this is.
There's add metrics to the span. I think I can't remember which runtime has some prototype on this. Basically, it's metrics and tracing.
I think Jaeger also asked me about that, whether Jaeger tracing was possible. I think right in the Jaeger backend. You could add metrics to the span, and I think Quarkus was configurable to do that, as far as I know.
Oh, that's a good feedback. I will look. I will.
But the ID is a low-hanging fruit, and this was always the case because if we get that, we could get rid of parts of MDC and logging. Because if you are log a lot, you also you need to know the ID, the transaction ID, and we already have it because of tracing. So we could, and what Quarkus can do, for instance, Quarkus can. There is a log formatter which already picks the ID, the span ID, and you see it in the logs. So this already works in Quarkus, which is really useful because then if you have a log aggregator, then you see, across multiple microservices, how the transaction flows.
Yeah, that makes sense. Basically, it's when you're debugging things, you can see the flow. Yeah. Okay, so that's very good feedback. I need to make sure to feedback to the project.
Yeah, it
It's
was
also-
unintended feedback. We talked about OpenTracing, and I immediately got, this my thoughts, because recently I worked with MicroProfile, and I also did it with the baggage and tracer.
Oh,
Cool.
that's great. That's great. This is kind of one of the things that I want to ask you is kind of about which areas, which other features you would have.
Now I'm curious about the metrics part. So the what happens with application namespace, or how to call it, scope or registry?
But so for the metrics, there's so many options on the table, and we spend so much time to compare all these options. The one option is kind of people saying, directly deprecate a whole MicroProfile Metrics and just adopt Micrometer. And then immediate question come back is what about our existing customers? So this is more like they are not comparable anymore. Is almost like throw away all the things we have done and just rigging new things. And what happened if one day Micrometer is not the mainstream?
Exactly.
And it's a kind of we just don't running around and don't know what to focus. So I think this is a big kind of major drawback for that approach. And second approach is basically create a shim layer. So this is more like what you also talk about for tolerance. Basically, we hide the implementation. On the surface is just like annotations.
Exactly.
And then, you push whatever the kind of the implementation.
But this is what Jakarta is about, right? This is all shim, all our APIs. There is actually almost no implementations. The implementation ships with the server. So I would also expect MicroProfile to do the same.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's actually as of today is kind of the people on the MicroProfile OpenTracing prefer we have a shim layer. So basically it's it is a kind of in the implementation you can put the Micrometer as a part of implementation, and then it's the APIs and also the application scoped metrics and base and vendor metrics and continue work as before. So the other thing is because Micrometer is kind of quite popular. And then we even can expose that API for the users comfortable with the API. If people want to use the MicroProfile Metrics, they can directly use them the current annotation. Or if you want to do the Micrometer, and then the runtime can expose that API as well.
About the popularity, what I think what happens with the Micrometer and MicroProfile is if you are building your own runtime, then Micrometer is just great because you have the complete control. You can do whatever you like, and you can build really precise metrics. If you're building a business app, so I performed this year lots of code reviews, and I was already happy if the developers managed to expose some counters on gauges, because this is what counts, what is the state of the business, how many orders were processed or something like this. And maybe, some timed or simple timed or something like this on the boundary level. This is the minimum. And this is already, the developers are too lazy to do anything else. So, and if I would, in the business applications, and because, there is not too lazy, there is no user story for that. That's the problem. If you are in a business projects, no product manager, no one will tell you build metrics. No one cares about that. So I would say it should be easy. So what I did, I just looked it up. This was on March the 17th. I recorded a screencast, Quarkus MicroProfile Metrics and Micrometer, So I did one or two screencasts, and then feedback was immediate. Why is it so complicated? So why we cannot keep this with MicroProfile? Because in Micrometer, to separate the application from the technical metrics, you'll have to write your own filter. So it just doesn't work out of the box. And in MicroProfile, the great story is, if I'm using let's say I'm counting something like. So what I would do, I would just inject, the metric registry and say counter, name, and inc, and it counts up, and I'm done. But all the counters appear in application scope. So recently on AWS, for instance, we installed a Prometheus scraper. So I only expose from MicroProfile the application metrics. So I didn't want it, to see my JVM on garbage collector behavior. I only wanted, to point Prometheus just to my business metrics. And I could do this with Micrometer, but I have to do this with Micrometer. I'm too lazy. I don't care about that. It's just for me, just, I like the separation between the vendor metrics or technical metrics like garbage collector and, JVM metrics, and my business metrics, which are higher level. So, and this is not only my opinion. So I get more and more feedback. Like people really like MicroProfile metrics because it's so simple. But I think the problem is that maybe if you are vendor or runtime provider, then MicroProfile metrics are maybe not enough, because you would like to have more functionality and maybe not only integration with Prometheus, but also with Datadog and the others and whatever. But if you are in a business app, it's absolute okay.
Yeah. So anyways, MicroProfile, the API is provided for the business, application development.
Cool.
So whatever end user find easier, that's our goal. This basically is, I also got some some feedback for Micrometer is it can generate a lot of metrics, and it's kind of all the different layers and etc. But I think it's in MicroProfile we have been striving to be very simple.
Yeah.
Don't learn so much and then understand how the things worked together and be able to use the API.
So the analogy would be like the Micrometer is JDBC and MicroProfile JPA for me.
Oh yeah, that's great.
Because this is the Micrometer is low level, it can do everything, and this JPA is not as powerful as JDBC, but it's easier to use. So this is what I would see. What also feedback what I like and developers like and everyone likes this if I show this, that the fault tolerance contributes the metrics to metrics. So if this is really good, because this is also very pragmatic, because if you get a timeout or fallback, you can immediately raise an alert. Right? Yeah, this is a very, very useful feature. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's great to know. It's
another question I have for you. So there's other interesting specs like MicroProfile reactive messaging, for instance. Is it now part of the MicroProfile, or what is it? Is it like it is released separately, or what's the deal with the other small RAI projects? Or they are mostly you will find in small RAI, but they are like how to call it, extensions or satellite projects.
Yeah, so it's that I mentioned in my book. So it's about MicroProfile releases, page 20 and 21.
Oh.
21 and to 31. So basically, in MicroProfile, the two types of releases. One is the platform release when we talk about 4.0 and 4.1, 5.0. So this is 8. So this one is included these 8 MicroProfile component specifications. Like there's a few others, such as reactive messaging, reactive stream operators, context propagation, LI and GraphQL. This is all called standalone releases. So they have their own release cycle. Actually, in the 2022 program plan, I suggested and also added to our plan. So we revisit all these standalone releases, standalone specifications, and then probably I don't know whether you know it or not. For the context propagation, there's a kind of we're trying to merge into the Jakarta concurrency. This the PR has been proposed and merged. So it will come up with in the next release of the Jakarta concurrency. So it's for that MicroProfile for the context propagation. We might just leave it for now.
But then the Jakarta EE concurrency will have to become a part of MicroProfile, right?
So this is very interesting. So I have been thinking along the similar line. There's hopefully I will bring this up to the next release for the core profile. In the Jakarta EE 10, I don't know whether you kept up to date with that. So there's a concept, a new release profile called core profile. This in the core profile, so that's pretty much to be consumed by MicroProfile. So it's we plan also evaluate whether to consume the core profile. So the core profile, it has a CDI Lite and JAX-RS, JSON-B and JSON-P expression language. And the other thing is kind of there's also a Jakarta config. So basically, it's the MicroProfile config kind of been reworked to be like a part of the to be Jakarta config. So if that kind of released, probably there won't be in time for the core profile 1 or 10 release next year. And then it's kind of the next release, maybe we'll talk about for the core profile release, maybe talk about whether to add Jakarta concurrency. My suggestion is to add Jakarta concurrency in the future of the core profile. So that in that way, it will be able to consume by MicroProfile APIs. So that MicroProfile consumed by MicroProfile stack. So in that way, MicroProfile stack can integrate with context propagation, the functionalities.
Yeah, because right now it is actually easy for users. It's easy to understand. So we have the foundation is from Jakarta, and the added value is from MicroProfile.
Yes.
But if you start, to merge MicroProfile back to Jakarta EE, what means merge? It will probably what means merge is available in both camps, maybe, right? Or it will disappear from MicroProfile and moves to Jakarta EE.
Yeah, the end goal is disappear in MicroProfile and appear in Jakarta EE. And then come back to MicroProfile.
Yeah, exactly. So then it has to come back. Then it's okay. If it disappears from MicroProfile, then everything is clean because it would be then it's like JAX-RS. It's actually Jakarta EE, but it's part of MicroProfile or JSON-P. So this is not a problem if something moves from disappears from MicroProfile and goes to Jakarta EE.
Yeah. So there's a special requirement for that to happen is for the context propagation, we really want to be adopted by CDI, so that CDI can use the context propagation to propagate for example, if you create a new thread and etc. All the contexts need to appear on this new thread. At the moment, it doesn't work. So that's the major thing why it's pushed to the Jakarta stack.
Yeah, very smart. So lazy CDI guys should do something about it, right?
For the context propagation, it must have been talking about for many, many years. I think maybe the 7 or 8 years or at least.
The funny thing is, at the initial call of MicroProfile, I don't know whether it was the very initial, but one of the initials, I was also involved. And they asked me, what should be in MicroProfile? And I said, Jakarta EE Concurrency. We need concurrency. And I say, really? They say, no, in MicroProfile, there should be no, in microservices, there is concurrency not an important. Again, concurrency is hugely important. I mean, you would like to start stuff in the background. And back then, we did a lot with asynchronous, with EJBs. So I knew we needed, and we always injected in managed executor in order, to have more monitoring, stuff like that. And I was in lots of task forces where developers just started new threads, and then the server broke. So for me, it was now it's maybe a little bit less important because now we have no more functions or more services, and they are then single-threaded almost, right? So if we have less CPU power, then there is not that much need for threads. But back then was really, and but still it was, and I would say the Jakarta EE specs is actually rather simple, right? This is like you are injecting the executor service, and this is managed. This is basically it. If you look at the interface, it's empty. It just inherits from the executor service, and there are some suggestions what the server can do. So we could formalize that, but it's not like a huge spec, I would say.
Absolutely. In Jakarta EE, for this synchronized, at least it's, push the security context, and also is JNDI namespaces and etc. in the synchronized thread, the way the programming model, like a new thread, and then go inherit all the security context.
Yeah, the JNDI made now log4j extensible, right?
So log4j, of course.
Yeah, this was in JNDI. There's almost like OSGI we have in logging framework right now. We can just download modules in running system.
Oh gosh, yeah, it's kind of I think it nearly took over the world over the weekend since Friday. The log4j.
Yeah.
I feel like now is everybody understand how important the logging and tracing are.
Yeah, and what I didn't notice that, and this was coincidence. Someone asked me about logging, and I didn't knew about the vulnerability, but because it was like 48 hours, 2 days ago or something like this. And I always prefer java.util.logging or something simpler or system log. I was never for log4j, so I say I just don't use external logging frameworks. And then I got feedback like, why I don't log4j just because of the bug. It's like, which bug? What they're talking about? And then I look at this, and then I found, about the error with LDAP and JNDI. But back to logging, actually, a very simple facade could be interesting, right? In MicroProfile, logging facade.
This is very interesting. I know last year, the EB for last year, we had extensive conversation about whether we want to do a logging back in MicroProfile. Actually, there's a kind of a proposal in the sandbox, talking about another facade for logging. And there's people, because for this logging, because it's a common thing, and there's some people immediately jump out and say, no, we don't need another logging facade, and to be abstract over abstract over abstract. Mm-hmm. There's and then it's kind of the ended up there, and so it's just we didn't revisit in the past 2 years for this logging aspect. The other thing is, the OpenTelemetry. There is a logging kind of the branch. Is the module is a tracing metrics and logging. And in the future, we might want to evaluate logging from there. It may be, good approach. So at the moment when we create OpenTelemetry, so we are open-minded. We do tracing first, and then we evaluate the need to bring in logging or the metrics when they are matured or they are been getting good feedback and etc.
I'm just looking at AWS Lambda logging, because if you have an AWS Lambda, you get a context and you get the Lambda logger. It has exactly two methods: log string and log byte array. And that's basically it.
Oh,
And this is the official API since 2015 from AWS Lambda. It Amazon AWS Services Lambda runtime, and is used in all Java projects. So I would say, if I would do such a thing, it should be minimalistic. You know, it would be like just log and maybe error. So we just distinguish between logging and errors, and maybe this is basically it. Because what I do, this was also the discussion at the weekend about logging. Either in larger project, I use CDI. So I'm injecting via CDI a logger, and let's configure CDI with the produces the logger. Or in smaller projects, I just have an interface with static methods. And I start with system out println, and then later, if there are requirements, I swap the system out println with something more reasonable. But the interface remains the same. So I would say, if logging, then minimalistic logging, and then of course, if you are running, of course, on let's say Quarkus, then it will redirect this interface to or bind this interface to internal Quarkus logging. If you're running in the clouds, then a cloud native logging implementation could be used, and this would be the idea.
yeah, great. So we're waiting for you to propose the proposal about MicroProfile logging from Adam.
Yeah, I'm not very lucky, because I had already heated discussions with the metrics, MicroProfile Metrics, issues, because I was and in Romain I forgot his name. This is a famous guy from Tommy.
Roman.
Yeah,
I
Romain.
think he left Tommy.
Yeah, he also wanted to have multiple scopes. But for me, was one application scope was not enough. So I wanted to have multiple scopes, because my idea would be, if I start with metrics and you have one scope per the entire app, this is like too much insight. So my idea was that I could create my own registries or scopes or namespaces, right? Custom scopes. And the feedback was from the metric MicroProfile guy. Now we try to get rid of all these scopes. Also, okay. I want to have more, and you want to remove my scopes, right? And the Romain was also with me, and I said, okay, maybe no. Can we get custom scopes in one time?
I think that's kind of I think we talked about this scope and etc. I think you are not the only one likes this scope. I think it's kind
very
of
good. So I'm not crazy. This is good to know, right?
You are not. There's some other people also like this scope and etc. I think since now, like the people lean towards this shim layer. I don't think it's kind of we should get rid of these scopes.
No, because if you have scopes, they could be mapped to filters on Micrometer, or it is absolutely doable. And the shim or API. This is actually the entire deal of Jakarta EE and Java EE and J2E was clean separation between API and SPI always.
Yeah.
We had the JMS API, and MQ series was, the SPI. We had JDBC databases were the implementation. So, and now using Micrometer directly, it is, I think, in the first time in the history that we are using an implementation as an API, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And not the first time. Like MicroProfile OpenTracing. We exposed the
IOTracer, right?
tracer.
The tracer, but just the tracer, yeah.
Yeah.
But the tracer is from the spec, is not from the...
The tracer is from OpenTracing spec.
Yes, exactly. But the Micrometer, Micrometer, there wouldn't be no spec. We would...
Yeah, that's true. It's kind of library, isn't it? Yeah.
This would be completely new direction of everything, right?
Yeah, that's true. From this way, yes, it's kind of it's not spec, it's direct, it's kind of the library or the kind of the tracing the metrics.
We could also replace fault tolerance with hystrix, from Netflix.
The history
Yeah.
in fault tolerance.
This was the discussion back then, why I'm not using hystrix, and I was never for hystrix because it was actually similar. So okay, it is maybe powerful, but I don't need the entire power. What I need maybe timeout, retry, and even now in project it's really. I don't know what they remember. Everyone was crazy about circuit breakers and bulkheads at all conferences talks. And now we have it, and this is really. I perform lots of code reviews, but it's really rare to see circuit breaker and bulkheads used. I'm already happy about timeouts because timeouts are crucial for stability, deadlock prevention, stuff like that. And if you have retry with timeout and fallback, then this is already a huge success in a project. But bulkheads maybe more because some developers know that with bulkheads and asynchronous you can have a thread pool, which is very useful. And circuit breaker are rare, I have to say. Also, back then, everyone said, we need circuit breaker. And all conference, I remember exactly the long discussion in Java user group, circuit breakers are absolutely needed. And now it's over.
No, nobody talked about circuit breaker anymore. Maybe they secretly are using it, so everything works.
Yeah, exactly. And now I get question now, why? Oh, recently we had also discussion why I'm using MicroProfile fault tolerance and not relying on service mesh, right? So it's called service mesh, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and I said okay, and this was also interesting discussion. But for me, what I said is what service mesh can do is this: what let's say Apache server can do for JBoss, right? Because and this is just somehow limited. So the service mesh, it's called service mesh, right? This is the right name, service mesh.
Yeah, service mesh, the Istio.
Yeah, Istio, exactly. Istio is the product, but Istio is an instance of service mesh, right? Service mesh, okay.
Is the one that
because there's also product app mesh, service mesh. So I think you know what I'm talking about, Istio. Exactly. This was the discussion about Istio. It's okay, but what Istio can do, Istio can only watch the traffic and know from outside everything. So I can retry and timeout from outside. But what I can do from inside, from the app, I can provide counters and additional insight. And what I think what could happen is that Istio could ask us, give me more insights so I can decide better.
Yeah, it's the other thing is actually I wrote a blog compare the MicroProfile with service mesh.
This comes to the show notes.
Yeah, it's if you search Google Emily Jiang MicroProfile and Istio. So I came up with a side-by-side comparison about the fault tolerance aspect with the Istio fault tolerance. Because Istio counted, Istio, as you said, is can only scratch the surface. It doesn't know anything about application. One major thing it couldn't do fallback, because in order to do fallback, you need a business logic. And Istio can only grab when the kind of outbound request, and then it can do retry just on the traffic level, and then it's
like a proxy or Apache server. Exactly. This is what we did. This as always said. Okay, we have a JBoss back then. Let's say 15 years ago. And what happened is we had a web server. And the web server did SSL, and it communicated with ModJK or HTTP, ModHTTP, I think was the name, with the Wildfly, right? Or JBoss.
Yeah.
So now we could argue, okay, now the Apache can do, fault tolerance. No one came up with the idea back then because it is crazy. I mean, partially, yes, we could retry something. It is idempotent. The next thing is, if it retries, it has to know from outside whether the operation is idempotent or not, right? Because it cannot just reply transaction and say, transfer money again or something like this. So, and interesting, right? So, I mean, if you think about this now, it's okay, service mesh could do this, but why didn't Apache web server did this back then 15 years ago? Because it is hard if you think about this from outside.
very hard and very difficult to configure.
Exactly. So you will have to configure the application twice. So you need the configuration for Istio and the application now for the configuration for the Java app, and then how to test it. Also interesting. Right?
Yeah, the major thing is about testing as well. It's like when we write application, we know, okay, we just try this a few times, and then I come up with a sensible fallback. And if like you say, okay, you just do whatever you want to do, and then leave the kind of the fault tolerance to the Istio. But who will test it? And then will the data operation know how the application will perform? And but at that time, it's too late. So I think for the Istio fault tolerance is kind of okay. For the applications, you haven't got any fault tolerance aspect, but you do need to perform a retest. I think that's kind of very coarse level of the fault tolerance. It's kind of almost like is something is a workaround. So it's adding additional the resilience feature, such as like you don't know how to secure your application, or you forgot, or you didn't have ability to secure it. Okay, use the Istio.
Yeah, exactly. You are absolutely right. And there's, of course, there's one killer feature for Istio now. If you can distribute certificates, SSL certificates is great. And we got another interesting story with Istio if you have versioning, so you can add additional path like API gateway functionality where you can reroute the traffic to different microservices. What I could also see, this could be also done with Apache back then, yeah. So what else? What else is in the incubator? This maybe we can talk about that. So what you are talking about the MicroProfile? What can come in the next 10 years? So what could come in the next 10 years of MicroProfile?
What could come in the next 10 years in the MicroProfile? Actually, as I mentioned earlier, this year we are trying to lay out the foundation. And the next year we're trying to focus on the innovation. As we talked about the OpenTracing, no, it's a kind of OpenTelemetry. OpenTracing will be superseded by OpenTelemetry, and also the metrics kind of feature. So also we try to evaluate the need for other new specifications. Kind of one of the idea is about data access. Actually, we talked about this in the past probably 2 years. And then we are going to revisit whether we want to do some any features about data access. It's kind of pretty much similar to maybe like a Spring data or some other like a Delta Spike data, or basically is to make the data access much easier. So this is kind of another idea. So basically, it's also we open up the floor for people to kind of innovate together. So that's why I'm thinking also is asking whether you have any kind of feedback or something. Think what areas MicroProfile should be focusing on, in the next probably 2 years. Do you think is some other like specification, other gaps MicroProfile should focus on?
Yeah, what I'm observing, and this could be interesting, is so what Micronaut is doing and Quarkus is doing. What they can do, and you can watch my YouTube video, my recent videos, is you can take Quarkus with MicroProfile full, package it with Quarkus, and Quarkus you can add an extension. It's called AWS Lambda, and what Quarkus will do, it will package the MicroProfile app as zip. It doesn't matter, but it will add a function layer, function adapter. So Quarkus will register on Azure Function as Azure Function, and Quarkus will also register as AWS Lambda, and will receive HTTP events internally and dispatch these events as JAX-RS. So what will happen to you is you can have a MicroProfile application which will be triggered as an AWS Lambda or Azure function or GCP function or whatever. And this is already happening. So this is what Quarkus is doing, and Micronaut is also able to do the same. And maybe this could be a lean spec, the ability to register to an HTTP event, because in Lambda you get, how this in Lambda works, you get basically a JSON event. This is how it looks like. This is like, this is the request, there's the path, this is the request and stuff like that. And then what Quarkus does, it tries to understand this and invokes then the JAX-RS endpoint. Pretty simple. And this is already also done because an AWS is called serverless containers. And they already implemented Jersey for that. So what AWS did, there is a Jersey implementation, which already works that way. So all the events are going to be consumed and dispatched. This is what AWS actually implemented. So and I see serverless is coming in the cloud, and what we always need is a facade. So this is the first idea, is to have a facade which acts as a HTTP, for web apps. And after that, the next movement would be a true serverless functions, and they are asynchronous, and they are basically consuming JSON and returning JSON. And recently I gave a talk. It was fun. I got a spontaneous idea. Like EGB developers, now it's time to learn Lambda. What I did, I picked the old specs from EGBs and explain how Lambda works, so functions, because it's really almost the same concepts from the concurrency and what happens behind the scenes, and max pool size and cold start. So we had already the same concept, similar concept. Mm. And if you look at message-driven beans, it is almost identical to Lambda. It's also message-driven. In message-driven beans, we were able to bind to different sources. It didn't have to be JMS. It even Whitefly implemented back then. I remember they had a message-driven bean which listened to emails. So maybe this would be interesting exploration, because then there could be like one a provider for Amazon on one provider for Asia, and you can just run MicroProfile applications in standard way on both. As I said, Quarkus and Micronaut already doing this. So, but because we already have implementation, maybe it is time to standardize that.
Oh yeah, that is a great idea. I think I also watched your Jakarta one talk. You talk about a lot on the serverless. I think it's also serverless and functions. I think this is it's a great idea. I think it's time to standardize the behaviors for the serverless kind of the programming model and etc.
Because if you look at the AWS, it is already old. It's like 6 years, and all these concepts are done. If you read through the AWS spec, it is really 90% from EGBs. So it's strange, but it is. It is like, the only difference is that all EGBs run in one JVM, and Lambda runs in multiple JVMs. So, static works differently. But concurrency is the same. Like there are never two threads in one method, and you can actually, if you know EGBs, you know Lambda. This is actually the interesting part. And
that's interesting.
Yeah, if you know EGBs, take a look at the Lambda spec, and you will find the similarities. And my serverless interest is what I see right now is maybe because of the pandemic or whatever, but the companies are moving now more to the cloud than before, and but what I see is like they would like to have the same environment they had on premise in the cloud, and this doesn't work very well. And what I also see is now if you explain management, that if you go to the cloud and you can have per transaction, price per transaction, or you will incur costs per transaction, they like it because now everything is predictable and they can have and if they know it, they would like to have it. And on the other hand, if you run the application servers all the time in the cloud, then they will have pay for something all the time, and you have always explained them why we need 5 microservices and not 3 or 10. And what I also saw, the first reaction was if we go to the cloud with microservices, they see on the monthly bill, okay, 5 microservices cost me $500. The first question is, can we not merge them to 3 or 1? Always. This was in all projects. Like, of course we can, right? This is what I like, monolith. I was just do it. But on functions, it is like if you have a business use case, and this business use case hopefully generates money. So now it's the manager decision. Should we implement this further or not? So I don't have to argue anymore. Say, okay, do whatever you like. I can implement you this. One order costs you 10 cents. Now it's big time. Now is your responsibility to decide whether we should ship or move in this direction or not. So this is complete different way of argumentation. So this is why I think that serverless is really interesting. Because if the managers, and this is the people who have money, right, who sponsor the thing, if they noticed that the billing is completely different, then it will take off, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Basically, it's how can you easily to understand from an ROI point of view.
Exactly.
The decision maker will be able to kind of immediately get it and then they can support this model.
And not even the entire free tier is even is counterproductive because then they don't see any costs and then the costs are starting. So it would be even better to delete the entire free tier from the one and then have the exact costs per transaction. Say this is predictable. If we invoke this function million times, it will cost you €1 million, €1 million. Not a problem if they can generate €2 per invocation, right? So this is like direct tracing between business and technology and back then if you spin Kubernetes in the cloud, then you have to pay for the Kubernetes control plane without any business added value. So you have to argue why we need 5 Kubernetes clusters and why we cannot just use 2, and then I would say okay because we need 5, and with Lambdas or with Azure functions or cloud functions. So they are just there sitting there and we are paying per invocation.
Yeah, absolutely. They are kind of self-explanatory. So
exactly. So this was the greatest. They are self-explanatory. I'm sitting here. If you invoke me, I cost you costs,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
so this is why I like, I don't know, OSGI, like semantic versioning or the package version, and etc. It's basically the package will tell you, okay, have I changed in the past compared to the past?
We agree on everything so long, for 1 hour. After 1 hour, you start with OSGI,
And OSGI is kind of once you understand it, it's very powerful.
No, OSGI is great, but the problem is you are on the vendor side, and I'm an application developer. Yeah. And for application developer, OSGI is not a great. There are not that many use cases, but it's exactly the same for JPMS, Java Platform Module System. I'm not using JPMS or the Java modules in my projects. Because for microservices, why I need an additional modularization? I mean, for command line interfaces or UIs, this makes sense. So if I would build a runtime by myself, a server, I would absolutely look at JPMS. And I would prefer JPMS over OSGI if I could, right? Because it ships with Java. I don't need external dependencies.
Yeah, that's true. However, because it's the kind of OSGI is very powerful. But I think it's kind of not many people understand it. It's quite a complicated, to get started. But
only you and Erin Schnabel understand OSGI. Everyone else is just do something with it, right?
Before I came to Java EE, Jakarta EE, I started with the OSGI. I worked with Erin before. honestly, no time.
I give you an example why I don't like OSGI but there's nothing to do with technology. Maybe you know there was Eclipse RCP, big deal, right?
Yes.
Eclipse. It was OSGI, and
Yeah.
I was in the Java space and I was architect and I was forced to use OSGI plugins because everyone wanted to have plugins, and so we built a pluggable Eclipse RCP client, and then management noticed that there are plugins and the users are able now to extend the application with plugins. And as they noticed that, they asked us to disable the plugins because now they didn't want the user to replace the plugins. But it was, I think, Eclipse 3, as I remember. And Eclipse 3, it was impossible to disable the plugins. So we had to know a lot. First, we were forced to build the plugins, and then afterwards, we had a lot to know to do to disable all the plugins. So this was the sad story with the plugins this way. In another business project, now the OSGI stories are coming. I was like external architect, and there was an internal architect, and the internal architect loved plugins. But if you think about the business use cases, there was nothing reusable. It was like there was like there was one algorithm for ordering. For me, it was not evident how to make something pluggable because everything was more or less hardwired. And he wanted to have plugins, and then in one point of time, I said, okay, I don't see the plugins here in the application. We can just ship, one thing and it will work perfectly. It was super simple. I don't see, there's nothing pluggable. And he wanted to have plugins. Okay, look, plugin costs us 1 day. If you would like to have 10 plugins, 10 days more. 100 plugins, you get 100 plugins. Just say a number and you get the plugins. They won't make any sense and we had no huge discussion and whatever. And at the end of the day, we shipped, I think, 3 plugins. It was like presentation, business, and test or something. So just a few plugins, which, this was my, OSGI story.
Yeah. So it's, I think OSGI is very, is suitable for the runtime. So
exactly.
Also, there's kind of some other things. The OSGI, like the versioning, is very powerful. So basically, it's kind of for application developer. Sure. You try to use.
But the problem is with Emily Jung or Erin Schnabel go to conference and talk, how great OSGI is. So there are 100 developers looking at you or thousands and say, great, now I come back to my insurance and I replace everything with OSGI bundle, and this is where the problem starts because the developers go to conference, they are watching you and then would like at home, to redo what you did for OpenLiberty. In OpenLiberty or Glassfish, Payara back then, it makes absolute sense to have OSGI. I mean, without OSGI, it's mission impossible to build something suitable. Mm-hmm. So you need different versions at the same time. You would hot swap everything. In business applications, for me, I cannot even imagine a use case for that, right? And this is the difference, right?
Yeah. So it's I think so because it's quite complicated.
Right. And the last thing about OSGI, I met, I forgot the guy, he created with NetBeans satellite tracking system. He was NetBeans Dream Team member and he won a Duke Choice Award. And I came to we had similar discussion about plugins. There's no OSGI on NetBeans back then, but there was a NetBeans plugin system. And I asked him, why you built, also so crazy, how many plugins do you have in your application? Said, okay, we're like 100. Like, why you need the plugins? And it turned out, in his application, it made absolute sense. Because, the satellites send signal to the application, on his application more or less like a Photoshop. So there were plugins, which the plugins processed, the signals and do something with the signal. And the plugins were provided by external vendors. So it was a beautiful architecture with the plugins, but this was like exception from the rule. In my project, it's like, one PM, one Scrum Master and a few developers, and we get the user stories, we implement the user stories, then we are done. There are no room for plugins, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's it's suitable for the runtime development and etc.
Perfect, Emily. So then I will re-invite you back next week, right?
Yeah, we can have weekly scrum.
Weekly scrum about microprofile. Okay. Anything
Yeah,
else we forgot to talk about?
yeah,
Something?
it's yeah. So not much. It's kind of the you asked before what I busy with. Also, I've been busy with Jakarta EE like activities as well. It's kind of working. Yeah, it's kind of helping out all the Jakarta EE and like spec and also it's yeah, it's kind of I'm working on the Jakarta config together with Dimitri. Is we're leading the Jakarta config and trying to yeah making more progress on
Dmitry
that.
Konilov?
Yes,
Yeah,
from
from
our
Halidon guy, right? The JSON
yeah
BE. Yeah. Uh-huh.
yes yeah. Is basically that we are trying to collaborate together and trying to like standardize like Jakarta config. Yeah, so it's busy with both MicroProfile and Jakarta, and also trying to help out make sure MicroProfile config, MicroProfile and Jakarta is continue to be complementary to each other and make sure it's a good ecosystem we can like all the end user can enjoy.
Just from my understanding, why you have to do anything? I mean, microprofile config is just great. What is to do?
Yeah, so the thing is because the Jakarta specs want to use micro.
Ah, okay. Integration with existing spec. Okay.
Yeah,
Because this is not like, it's not about microprofile spec itself. It's more like the others would like now to be better, like JPA, right? So how to,
yes,
yeah, okay.
yeah. Some other quite a few specs want to use micro profile config.
Yeah, this is
And then,
natural. There's always the question, though, if you have persistence XML, how to have placeholders which are configurable from outside. This was always the question in Jakarta. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Don't want to introduce circular dependencies.
This is actually a hard job. What you got right now?
Yeah, it's a hard job. Also, is
Bin validation, right? Bin validation is next one.
no.
Yeah, bin validation needs config, of course.
Yeah, it's a kind of we trying to get the, I think it's quite a few spec can benefit from Jakarta config. Maybe beam validation can like think about how to integrate with Jakarta config. So the other thing is also in my vision is we don't want to have like two configs lying around. We want to make sure, I mean, what we come up with Jakarta config it should be comparable to MicroProfile config.
Yeah.
So basically, for the customers use MicroProfile config, if they switch to Jakarta config, they can find the way to switch to Jakarta config.
Yeah.
Is we need to lay out all the migration path. Yeah.
Perfect. So you have a lot to do. So we cannot expect next book. Now this is over with the book.
Yeah, it's the book deal is done. So
or we can just gather some money, give you money that you can renovate your home again, and then you have enough time in your camper to write another book.
Yeah, I need to get another mobile house.
Mobile house, exactly. I also wrote my books on the road. So I was in planes and trains. I never wrote it because if you are in the office, you always have something to do which is more sensible than write a book. And for book you need time, and that time is the best time. If you're someone in the airplane or somewhere, and then you can just you're forced to sit there. So just book is just perfect.
Absolutely, because I think I benefited from writing this book because in the evenings I don't have any entertainment, and then the mobile house is so small. I don't have room to walk around anyway. So. Yeah, I just sat there and just get on with the book. And then once my brain being occupied by other things, I have less things to complain about my living condition. So
exactly, perfect. So Emily, it was fun. I would like to reinvite you back and to talk, about MicroProfile again and your Jakarta elimination strategies with MicroProfile will replace Jakarta, right? So this is the secret plan. No. We will cut it out, of course. Or
Yeah,
not?
my plan is that they both are nice. Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Just kidding. So healthy competition between both. Okay.
No competition. I need to level them up.
Yeah. So thank you a lot, and see you next time.
Yeah, see you next time. Thank you so much for inviting me, and this is a great conversation. Yeah.